Part 5 Shadows No More. The combined fleet assembled at the rally point looked like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. 800 communion vessels from 43 different species, each one representing a unique approach to warfare and technology. And alongside them 200 human ships, smaller and cruder but crewed by beings who had proven they did not understand the meaning of surrender. Admiral Youngji stood on the bridge of her flagship, the UEF's Resolution, and looked at the tactical display showing Devourer Prime. The machine world was massive, larger than Earth, covered entirely in processing facilities and manufacturing plants. Surrounding it were defense platforms that could destroy a planet. Nothing living had come within a light year of it in 10,000 years. All ships report ready, her tactical officer reported. Youngji opened the fleet-wide channel. Every species heard her words translated into their own language. Today we fight not for territory or politics or pride. We fight for survival. The machines that wait for us do not hate us. They do not fear us. They simply process, consume, and expand. But we are not resources. We are living beings and we refuse to be processed. Show them what life can do when it refuses to die. The fleet advanced. The Devourers responded with calculated precision. Defense platforms opened fire, their weapons tearing through space with mathematical accuracy. Ships died on both sides, explosions blooming like brief flowers in the void. But the fleet kept coming. For every ship destroyed, 2 more pushed forward. The communion vessels used their superior shields to protect the human ships, and the humans used their insane tactics to create openings for devastating attacks. In the midst of the chaos, a small transport ship slipped through the battle. It carried Captain Doyen, Technician Soman, and 48 other soldiers who knew they were not coming back. The ship was stealth configured, covered in coating that absorbed sensor scans, but it would not survive long once detected. They made it past the outer defense sphere through luck and skill. Then the real challenge began. Devourer Prime's surface was a maze of machines, all designed to destroy biological intruders. The transport crash-landed in a processing sector, its hull torn open by defensive fire. "Move," Doyen shouted, leading his team out of the wreckage. They had minutes before the local defense units converged on their position. The team split into squads, each one heading for a different objective. They had to disable security nodes to create a path to the central nexus where Soman could upload the virus. Every meter forward meant fighting through maintenance drones, combat machines, and automated defenses. Doyen's combat armor took hits that would have killed an unprotected human instantly. His squad fought through a processing center where the air itself was toxic, filled with industrial chemicals. 2 soldiers fell when ceiling-mounted weapons caught them in crossfire. Another was crushed by a machine that dropped from above. "Keep moving," Doyen ordered, fighting down the grief. They had known the cost. In orbit, Admiral Youngji watched the tactical display as the fleet bought time for Doyen's mission. The communion vessels were taking a beating, but they held the line. Human ships darted through gaps in the defenses, launching attacks that made no tactical sense but somehow worked. One human destroyer, badly damaged, flew directly into a cluster of defense platforms and detonated its reactor core. The explosion took out 12 platforms and created an opening for communion bombers to attack the surface installations covering Doyen's position. "They are dying for us," Mitra said quietly from her position in the Fleet Coordination Center. "They barely know us and they are dying for us." "No," Velthar said, watching the battle with something like understanding finally dawning. "They are dying for themselves, because they refuse to live in a galaxy controlled by machines, because they would rather die fighting than live in submission. It is not noble. It is not strategic. It is simply who they are." On the surface, Doyen's team reached the second objective. The security node was protected by combat drones that moved with precise efficiency. The battle was savage in close quarters. Doyen watched 8 more of his people die before they destroyed the node. "Third squad report," he called over the comm. "Third squad is gone, sir. But we got the node. You have a clear path to the nexus." Doyen felt each loss like a physical wound, but he pushed forward. They had come too far to stop now. His remaining soldiers, now numbering just 16, fought their way through the final defenses. The central nexus was a massive structure that pulsed with energy, coordinating the entire Devourer network across the galaxy. Technician Soman rushed to the access port, her armored hands already pulling out the device containing Jihoon's virus. "Cover her," Doyen ordered as the team formed a defensive perimeter. Machines were converging from every direction, drawn by the intrusion into their central hub. The battle became desperate. Doyen emptied magazine after magazine into advancing drones. His armor showed critical damage on multiple sections. Around him, soldiers fought with the fury of beings who knew this was their last stand. How long? Doyen shouted to Somin. 2 minutes. The upload is complex. We don't have 2 minutes. Then make 2 minutes. Somin snapped back, her fingers flying over the interface as she fought through the Devourer security protocols. Doyen watched his last soldiers fall. First Sergeant Jiwan, who had served with him for 5 years, went down fighting 3 drones at once. Lieutenant Kangmin was crushed by a falling beam. One by one, the team was wiped out until only Doyun and Somin remained. Doyun's armor was barely functioning. His left arm was useless, crushed by a drone's attack. His weapon was empty. A combat machine, twice his size and made of hardened alloy, advanced on their position. How long? Doyen asked again, his voice calm despite the pain. 30 seconds. Doyen dropped his empty weapon and charged the combat machine with his good arm, activating his armor's emergency power boost. He knew he could not win, but he could buy 30 seconds. He fought with the desperation of a cornered animal and the determination of a human who refused to accept the impossible. The machine was stronger, faster, more efficient. But Doyen was stubborn. He grappled with it, using his armor's weight to throw off its balance. When it struck him, breaking ribs and rupturing systems, he held on. Upload complete, Somin shouted. The virus spread through the Devourer network like lightning. Every machine connected to the Nexus felt it, a cascade of shutdown commands that could not be stopped. Across the planet, across the galaxy, Devourers began failing. Their coordination collapsed. Their production facilities went dark. In orbit, the Communion fleet watched as the defense platforms suddenly stopped firing. The surface installations powered down. The machine world went silent. Did it work? Someone asked in the sudden quiet. Admiral Youngji checked her sensors. Across multiple star systems, Devourer forces were going offline. The virus had spread through their network, shutting down every machine simultaneously. It worked, she said, feeling tears on her face. They did it. But on the surface, Doyen did not see the victory. The combat machine had finally overpowered him, crushing his armor's chest plate. He lay on the cold metal floor, watching Somin desperately try to stop the bleeding. Did it work? He asked, his voice weak. Yes, Somin said, tears streaming down her face. We saved them. We saved everyone, Doyen smiled. Good, that's good. He opened his comm to the fleet one last time. This is Captain Doyen to all forces. Mission accomplished. The Devourers are down.
Tell Earth.
Tell them we did it. His last words went out across the fleet, heard by every species. This is humanity. We don't exist in shadows. We burn them away. The machine world began to collapse as its systems failed. Admiral Youngji tried to send rescue ships, but the orbital space was too unstable. The surface team's signal went dark. Captain Doyen and Technician Somin did not make it home. Neither did the 48 others who had volunteered for the mission. But their sacrifice saved trillions of lives across the galaxy. The war ended within days as the Devourer network collapsed completely. Without their central coordination, the remaining machines were easily destroyed. The Communion counted their losses, billions dead, hundreds of worlds devastated. But they had survived, because humanity had shown them that survival was not about calculation or efficiency. It was about refusing to give up. 5 years later, Ambassador Hyun, now old and near the end of his lifespan, traveled to Unity Prime one final time. He met Dr. Minji at a memorial station built in orbit of Earth. The station held the names of every being who had died, fighting the Devourers, human and alien alike. We were wrong about your species, Hyun said as they looked at the memorial wall. The Eternal Ones called you the Veiled Ones, beings in shadow. We thought it was a warning. But it was not. What was it? Minji asked. A promise. You did not emerge from shadows to threaten the galaxy. You emerged to remind us that light exists because someone is willing to fight for it. You came from darkness not to spread it, but to show us how to defeat it. Minji looked down at Earth, where a new generation of humans was growing up in a galaxy that had finally accepted them. We are not special because we are stronger. We are special because we never learned when to quit. That is what makes you terrifying, Hyun said with a gentle laugh. And wonderful. Part 4. The scourge for 3 years, an uneasy standoff existed at the edge of human space. Communion ships maintained their blockade, but they did not attack. Humanity built new ships and fortifications, but they did not expand beyond their agreed boundaries. Both sides watched each other and waited. Then the distress calls began. The first came from the inner colonies of the Seldorian collective, Mitras's people. Entire worlds went silent within hours of sending their emergency broadcasts. When Communion scout ships arrived to investigate, they found nothing. No cities, no people, no life at all. The planets had been stripped clean, reduced to barren rock. Within a week, 5 more species reported similar attacks. Worlds on the inner edge of the galaxy were disappearing, their populations vanishing overnight. The attackers left no trace, no evidence, no survivors. Mitras led the research team examining the dead worlds. What they found made her crystalline body shudder with fear. Microscopic machines in the soil, in the air, in the water. Nanomachines designed for one purpose: converting biological matter into raw materials. The Devourers, she whispered, recognizing them from ancient warnings buried in the Communion archives. They have awakened. The Devourers were older than any living species, a machine intelligence created by a civilization long extinct. 10,000 years ago, they had consumed entire sectors of the galaxy before the combined forces of 100 species managed to shut them down and bury them deep in the galactic core. Now they were back, and they were hungry. The Communion Council met in emergency session. Grand Commander Velthar looked older than he had 3 years ago, his carapace dulled by stress. Our fleets are mobilizing, but we are spread thin. The blockade of human space requires significant resources. We need every ship to fight the Devourers. Then lift the blockade, Mitra said. We need humanity's help. The council chamber erupted in objections. Species that had lost ships fighting humanity 3 years ago demanded their surrender first. Others claimed humans could not be trusted. We do not have time for pride, Mitra said, her voice cutting through the noise. The Devourers grow stronger every day they consume. If we do not stop them now, they will consume the entire galaxy, including Earth. Velthar clicked his mandibles in resignation. I will go myself. If humanity refuses, then we face extinction divided. Ambassador Hyun volunteered to accompany him. Together, they took a small diplomatic vessel to Earth, arriving at Unity Prime without the armada that had surrounded them last time. They were met by Commander General Hajun, who now led all of Earth's military forces. He was younger than the other human leaders they had met, but his eyes carried the weight of the 3-year standoff. Ambassador Hyun, Grand Commander Velthar, Hajun said, gesturing them to a conference room. I assume this is not a social visit. Hyun activated a holographic display showing the spreading devastation. Worlds marked in red gone, yellow under attack. The red was spreading like a disease toward the outer rim where Earth lay. The Devourers are ancient machines that consume all biological life, Hyun explained. They are not evil or cruel. They simply process. They see all living things as resources to be harvested. They cannot be negotiated with. They cannot be reasoned with. They can only be destroyed. And you need our help, Hajun said. Yes, Velthar said simply. Our fleets are powerful, but we are losing. The Devourers adapt to our weapons too quickly. They learn our tactics. They are machines perfect at calculation and optimization. They do not make mistakes. But you think we can help because we do make mistakes? Hajun asked with a slight smile. No, Mitra said, entering the room. We need you because machines think logically. Humans do not. You do things that make no sense tactically but work anyway. You take risks that calculations say will fail but succeed through sheer stubbornness. The Devourers cannot predict you because you do not follow predictable patterns. Hajun studied the map for a long moment. What are you offering in exchange for our help? Name your price, Velthar said. Full access to Communion technology databases. No restrictions. Every ship design, every weapon system, every scientific discovery. The Communion representatives looked at each other. What Hajun asked for was worth more than entire star systems. It would take humanity from a primitive civilization to an advanced one within decades. And after the war? Hyun asked. What then? After the war, you recognize Earth's sovereignty permanently. We help you as equals, not subjects. We are allies, not subordinates. You know we will agree, Velthar said. Why state terms you know we must accept? Hajun's expression hardened. Because I want it clear. We are not saving you out of submission or obligation. We are saving you because it is the right thing to do. And because those machines will come for us eventually anyway. But when this is over, the galaxy acknowledges what we have proven, that we deserve to be here, free and independent. Agreed, Velthar said without hesitation. He had learned that humans valued pride as much as survival. Within days, the technology transfers began. Human scientists worked around the clock, absorbing centuries of communion knowledge. But what surprised the communion was that humans did not just copy their technology. They improved it, found flaws, suggested modifications that communion engineers had never considered. Military coordinator Bora presented humanity's battle plan to the combined communion and Earth forces. She was direct and brutal in her assessment. Your fleets fight the Devourers in space where they are strongest. That is stupid. We need to attack their production facilities directly, cut off their ability to build new machines. That requires landing troops on machine worlds, a Kryn general objected. The casualties would be catastrophic. Our species do not have the psychology for sustained ground combat against such enemies. Then it is good we do, Bora said coldly. Humans have been fighting impossible odds since we figured out how to make fire. We will lead the ground assaults. Your fleets provide support and transport. The plan was insane by communion standards. Deliberately putting soldiers on worlds covered in hostile machines? It violated every principle of modern warfare, but desperate times called for desperate measures. Admiral Youngji commanded the first joint assault. Her fleet consisted of 200 communion vessels and 40 human warships. The target was a machine production world in the Corward Reach, where Devourers were manufacturing new units by the millions. The space battle was brutal. Devourer ships were efficient killers, but the combined fleet had advantages the machines had not encountered before. Human ships used tactics that violated probability matrices. They sacrificed themselves in ways the machines calculated as pointless, but which created openings for communion vessels to exploit. When the orbital defenses fell, the landing began. 5,000 human soldiers dropped onto the machine world's surface in armored drop pods. What followed was war at its most primitive and terrible. The soldiers fought through processing centers where biological matter was being converted to machine components. They destroyed reactor cores with explosives. They battled maintenance drones in hand-to-hand combat. Every meter gained was bought with blood and determination. Engineer Jihoon and his team, working aboard Admiral Youngji's flagship, developed the weapon that could turn the tide. A cascading virus that could spread through the Devourer network, shutting down their hive mind coordination. The problem is delivery, Jihoon explained to the military council. The virus has to be uploaded directly to a Devourer central nexus. And the closest nexus is on Devourer Prime, their primary hub world. Everyone understood what that meant. Devourer Prime was the most heavily defended location in the galaxy, a planet-sized machine surrounded by thousands of automated defense platforms. Getting close enough to upload the virus would be suicide. We need volunteers, Admiral Youngji said quietly. Every human in the room raised their hand. The communion representatives watched in awe and horror as thousands of humans volunteered for what was essentially a death mission. Captain Doyen, now a war hero after leading multiple successful raids, stepped forward. I will lead the insertion team. This is what we do. This is what humans have always done. Someone has to go first into the darkness. It might as well be us. The mission was approved. Doyen assembled a team of 50, including technician Soman, one of Jihoon's best specialists who understood the virus better than anyone else except its creator. As they prepared to leave, Ambassador Hyun approached Doyen privately. Why do you volunteer for this? You know you will not survive. Doyen checked his weapon, his face calm. Because if we do not, no one survives. Humanity has faced extinction before. We survived ice ages, plagues, wars, disasters. We survived because when things got darkest, someone was willing to walk into that darkness and light a fire. That is what we do, Ambassador. We carry the light forward no matter the cost. The assault on Devourer Prime was scheduled for 1 week. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon humanity and the communion could muster would be committed to this final attack. Across human space, people gathered to watch the news broadcasts. They knew what was at stake. They knew the odds, but they also knew that somewhere out there, humans were about to do what they had always done when faced with impossible odds. They were going to charge straight ahead and see what happened. Part 3. The test. The Communion Armada arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system like a wall of metal and light. 3,000 warships arranged themselves in perfect formation, a display of power meant to shock and awe. Each ship represented decades of advanced technology. Each crew had trained for years in military academies that had perfected warfare over millennia. They were the finest fighting force the galaxy had ever assembled for a police action. Grand Commander Velthar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Judgment. Through the viewing screens, he could see the primitive human fleet assembling to meet them. He counted their ships 3 times because he could not believe the number. 60 ships. That was all humanity could muster. Most were converted cargo vessels with weapons bolted onto their hulls. Their largest warship, the UEFS Indomitable, was barely a tenth the size of his flagship. They cannot be serious, his tactical officer said. They are outnumbered 50 to 1. Velthar clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. Open a channel to their commander. The human who appeared on screen was a woman with short dark hair and eyes that showed no fear despite the impossible odds she faced. Fleet Commander Jisu of the United Earth Fleet saluted formally. Grand Commander, she said. Welcome to the Sol system. I assume you're here to make us reconsider our earlier decision. Commander Jisu, Velthar said, trying to keep his tone reasonable. We do not wish to destroy you. We wish to protect you even from yourselves. Stand down your fleet. Accept Communion authority. No one needs to die today. Jisu smiled, and Velthar had learned enough about humans to know this smile was genuine. Grand Commander, I'm going to tell you something my grandfather told me when I was young. He was a soldier in one of Earth's wars. He said that the moment you accept limits someone else puts on you, you stop being free. You might still be alive, but you're not really living anymore. That is childish philosophy, Velthar said. Freedom without wisdom is chaos. Maybe, Jisu agreed. But it's our chaos to make. You see those 60 ships? Every single person on them volunteered. They all know the odds. They all know we'll probably lose. But we didn't crawl out of caves, split the atom, and reach for the stars just to kneel to someone else's empire. So here's our answer, Grand Commander. You want to contain us? You're welcome to try. The channel closed. Velthar felt a strange mix of respect and frustration. Give them one more chance. Send the surrender terms. The human response came back in less than a minute. It was not a message. It was a declaration of war. The battle began badly for humanity and got worse. Communion ships had shields that absorbed the primitive human weapons. Their own weapons could punch through human armor like it was paper. Within the first hour, humanity had lost 20 ships. But something was wrong. Velthar could feel it. His fleet was winning, but not as easily as they should be. Tactical report, he demanded. Sir, the humans are not fighting like we expected. They are not maintaining formation. Each ship is acting independently, using unpredictable tactics. They keep ramming our ships when their weapons fail. They are setting mines disguised as debris. One ship just self-destructed next to our destroyer squadron and took out 3 vessels with the blast. Velthar watched the battle unfold with growing unease. Human ships were dying, yes, but they were learning. Each attack taught them something new. They adapted their tactics in real time, trying things the Communion's war computers said were impossible or insane. One human destroyer, crippled and venting atmosphere, accelerated directly toward a Communion battlecruiser. The battlecruiser's captain laughed at the suicide run, confident their shields would hold. But at the last moment, the human ship released its entire payload of nuclear missiles at point-blank range. The shields held against the missiles, but the impact of the ship itself, moving at combat speed, cracked the shield generator. The battlecruiser was suddenly vulnerable. 3 more human ships, barely functioning, focused their fire on that one spot. The battlecruiser exploded. They are using their damaged ships as weapons, the tactical officer said in disbelief. They are calculating exactly how much damage a ship can take before it becomes more useful as a kinetic projectile. Then the virus hit. Communion ships started experiencing system failures. Weapons targeting went offline. Shield generators fluctuated. Navigation systems gave false readings. What is happening? Velthar demanded. Sir, the humans transmitted something during their initial surrender message. We thought it was their war declaration, but it contained malicious code. They weaponized a diplomatic transmission. The virus is spreading through our communication network. Velthar had to admire the audacity even as he cursed it. Cut all networked communications. Each ship operates independently, but removing their communication network removed their coordination. The Communion fleet, trained to fight as one unified force, suddenly became 3,000 individual ships trying to coordinate through slower, secure channels. The humans exploited the chaos immediately. They concentrated their remaining forces on isolated Communion squadrons, overwhelming them with numbers before moving to the next target. A new report came in that made Velthar's blood run cold. "Sir, the human ship Defiance has been boarded. Our Marines report the humans they are fighting in hand-to-hand combat. They have soldiers in powered armor physically attacking our crew." "That's impossible," Velthar said. "Ship-to-ship combat has not been used in warfare for 10,000 years. It's inefficient and barbaric. The humans do not seem to care about efficiency, sir. The Defiance's crew has been overwhelmed. The humans are now using our own ship against us. They have turned its weapons on our fleet." The battle raged for 14 hours. It was the longest engagement in Communion history. Most battles between technological civilizations lasted minutes, determined by who had better shields and weapons. But humans did not fight like civilized species. They fought like the apex predators they had evolved to be. They used every trick, every dirty tactic, every desperate gambit. They turned their deaths into weapons. They made their impossible odds into an advantage by doing things no rational species would attempt. When Velthar finally called for a ceasefire, he looked at the casualty reports in shock. 200 Communion ships were destroyed or disabled. Another 400 had sustained damage. The humans had lost 43 of their 60 ships. By any objective measure, it was a Communion victory. But it did not feel like one. Fleet Commander Jisoo appeared on screen again, broadcasting from the Indomitable's bridge. The ship was scarred and burning in places, but still fighting. Jisoo herself had a wound across her forehead, blood staining the side of her face. "Had enough?" she asked. "This is madness," Velthar said. "You have lost 70% of your fleet. We can call in reinforcements. We will blockade your system until you starve." "Go ahead," Jisoo said. "We'll spend that time building more ships, developing new weapons, and teaching our children why they need to fight. You can stay in our system for a year, 5 years, 100 years. We'll still be here, and we'll still say no. Your people will suffer. We've suffered before. We'll survive. That's what humans do." Velthar made a decision that would haunt his people for years to come. Withdraw the fleet, pull back to the system's edge, and establish a perimeter. As the Communion ships retreated to defensive positions, Velthar opened a priority channel to the Council. "We have engaged the humans, and?" Mitris asked. "We won the battle," Velthar said slowly. "But I do not think we can win a war. Not against them. Not like this." Back on Earth and Mars and Unity Prime, the celebration was brief. The military leaders knew the truth. They had survived the first test, but barely. If the Communion sent more ships, if they committed to total war, humanity would lose. Captain Doyen, who had commanded one of the defense platforms during the battle, met with the Joint Chiefs. "We need time," he said. "Time to build, time to research, time to prepare." "We may not have time," another officer said. "They could return tomorrow with 10,000 ships." "Then we fight with what we have," Doyen said. "That's what we did today. That's what we'll do tomorrow." But across the galaxy, something unexpected happened. The other Communion species had watched the battle through their military networks. They had seen what humans could do when pushed to the edge. They had seen a primitive species fight the combined might of 43 advanced civilizations to a standstill. Mitris compiled a report that spread through academic circles like wildfire. She had analyzed every second of the battle, studied every human tactic. Her conclusion chilled every species that read it. Humanity did not fight to win today. They fought to learn. They tested us, studied our tactics, identified our weaknesses. Every ship they lost taught them something new. And they have already begun applying those lessons. If we fight them again in a year, they will be twice as dangerous. In 10 years, they might be unstoppable. We did not fight a primitive species today. We fought the early stages of something the galaxy has never encountered before. The Eternal Ones remained silent, but those who could sense their presence felt something that might have been satisfaction. The test had been passed, though not in the way the Communion expected. Humanity had proven they would not surrender. Part 1. The Prophecy. The great chamber floated in the void between stars, a structure so ancient that most species had forgotten who built it. Inside, Representatives from 43 different worlds gathered in a circle that stretched for miles. Some breathed oxygen, others methane. Some had scales, others had skin that glowed with bioluminescence. They were the Galactic Communion, and they had kept peace in this corner of the universe for 50,000 years. Above them, the Eternal Ones appeared. These beings had no bodies anymore. They had evolved beyond flesh millions of years ago, and now existed as pure consciousness, vast clouds of glowing energy that could reshape reality with a thought. When they spoke, every species heard them in their own language, felt their words as vibrations in their souls. Children of the stars, the Eternal Ones said, their voices like thunder and whispers combined. We have watched you grow. We have guided you through darkness. But now we must warn you of something we cannot stop. The chamber fell silent. In all of recorded history, the Eternal Ones had never said they were powerless before. There exists a species, the voices continued, that walks in shadows at the edge of this galaxy. They are young, barely aware of the cosmos around them, but they carry within them something we have never seen before. A madness, a fire that refuses to die. Commander Velthar of the Kryn Empire leaned forward on his 6 legs. His species had conquered 100 worlds through military might. Are they powerful? He asked. Not yet, the Eternal Ones replied, but power is not what makes them dangerous. High Scholar Mitris of the Seldorian Collective raised her crystalline hand. Her people were philosophers and scientists, seekers of knowledge above all else. Then what makes them a threat? The energy beings pulsed with something that might have been concern. They do not know when to stop. They do not understand surrender. When nature tells them they cannot survive, they change nature. When physics says they cannot go further, they break physics. When death comes for them, they fight death itself, and sometimes they win. Confused murmurs rippled through the assembled species. Velthar clicked his mandibles in frustration. All species fight for survival. This is natural law. You fight until you lose, the Eternal One said. This species fights until they win, no matter how long it takes. They have no concept of impossible. They look at a mountain and see a challenge. They look at the stars and see destinations. They look at extinction and see an obstacle to overcome. Mitris felt a chill run through her crystalline form. What do you call this species? They have no name we know. In the oldest languages, they are called the Veiled Ones, because they have hidden from the galaxy in plain sight. They evolved on a violent world, surrounded by predators and disasters. They should have died 1,000,000 times. Instead, they became the apex predator of their entire planet. Then they conquered their world. Then they looked up and decided the stars were next. The chamber erupted in debate. Some representatives called for immediate military action. Others demanded more information. A few suggested trying to make contact and offer guidance. Velthar's voice cut through the noise. Where are they? In the outer spiral arm, orbiting a yellow star. They call their world Earth, they call themselves humans. The word felt strange in everyone's mind, alien and sharp. Human. It sounded ordinary, unremarkable, but the way the Eternal One said it carried weight, like speaking the name of a coming storm. How advanced are they? Mitris asked. They have barely left their world. By our measurements, they are a Type 0.7 civilization. They still burn fossil fuels. They still fight wars among themselves. They have only just touched their own moon. Velthar relaxed slightly. Then we have time to prepare. If they are so primitive, surely we can guide them. Teach them the proper way to exist in the galaxy. You misunderstand, the Eternal One said, and now their voices carried something close to sadness. We do not warn you because they are strong. We warn you because they are relentless. You cannot negotiate with a species that sees negotiation as just another battle to win. You cannot intimidate beings who have spent their entire existence proving that fear is something to overcome, not obey. Then what do you suggest? Mitris asked. Watch them. Study them. Try to understand them. Because one day soon, they will leave their world. They will spread across the stars like fire across dry grass. And when that day comes, you must decide whether to embrace them or oppose them. But know this, you cannot stop them. You can only choose whether they consider you friend or obstacle. The Eternal Ones began to fade, their energy dispersing back into the quantum foam of space. Their final words echoed in the vast chamber. They have a saying on their world, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. For humanity, everything has tried to kill them. Everything has failed. Now they are coming, and the galaxy will never be the same. The representatives sat in silence after the Eternal Ones departed. Finally, Velthar spoke. "We should send a survey team. See these humans for ourselves." Mitris nodded in agreement. "I will go myself. If we are to face this species, we must understand what drives them." 3 months later, a Seldorian science vessel entered the solar system. They kept their distance, hiding behind optical camouflage as they observed the third planet from its sun. What they saw both fascinated and disturbed them. Earth was beautiful, a blue and green jewel covered in water and life. But it was also scarred. The observers detected the remains of thousands of nuclear weapons, saw cities that had been rebuilt multiple times, found evidence of environmental disasters both natural and self-inflicted. And yet the humans kept building. They had satellites in orbit. They had a space station circling their world. They had robots crawling across the surface of Mars, their neighboring planet. They even had a few primitive ships being constructed in orbital shipyards. "Look at this," Mitris said to her science team, pulling up human communication broadcasts. "They are still divided. They still have wars. They still have poverty and disease. But look at what they dream about." The broadcasts showed human entertainment, their stories and myths. Every single one involved humans overcoming impossible odds. Their heroes were not the strongest or smartest. Their heroes were the ones who refused to give up, who got knocked down and stood back up, who faced gods and monsters with nothing but determination and clever thinking. "They worship persistence," one of the scientists observed. "No," Mitris said quietly, watching a human movie where a man fought against a computer that controlled his reality. "They are persistence. It is not a trait they have. It is what they are." She recorded everything and prepared her report. As the science vessel left the solar system, Mitris looked back at the small blue world. "The Eternal Ones were right," she whispered. "They are not coming. They are already here, in the darkness, building themselves into something the galaxy has never seen. And when they finally step into the light, we will all have to choose." The report reached the Galactic Communion 3 weeks later. The debate began immediately. But while the galaxy argued about what to do, humanity continued their work. They built new ships. They developed new technologies. They looked at the stars and made plans. The shadows were almost ready to reveal what they had been hiding. And the galaxy was not prepared for what it would see. Part 2, First Contact. 30 years passed faster than anyone expected. The Galactic Communion sent observation drones to watch humanity's progress, and what they saw defied all their models of civilization development. Species were supposed to grow slowly, building on each generation's knowledge over thousands of years. Humanity seemed to have skipped the manual and written their own rules. They had colonies on Mars now, actual cities with hundreds of thousands of people living under protective domes. They had mining operations in the asteroid belt. Their space stations had grown from simple modules to massive structures that rivaled some of the Communion's smaller outposts. And their ships, crude as they were, had begun exploring beyond their solar system using early faster-than-light technology they had somehow stumbled into discovering. The Communion Council met again, this time without the Eternal Ones present. Velthar had risen to become Grand Commander of the Kryn military fleet. He stood before the assembly, his aged carapace scarred from decades of service. "We can wait no longer," he said. "The humans are expanding. Soon they will encounter other species. If we do not make contact now, we lose the opportunity to guide them properly." Mitris, now an elder scholar, agreed for different reasons. "We need to understand them. Every observation brings more questions. They still fight among themselves, yet they cooperate on their space projects. They still have crime and corruption. Yet they send missions to explore planets that offer no immediate benefit. They are contradictions wrapped in paradoxes." The council selected Ambassador Hyun for the first contact mission. He was a Valrian, a species known for their diplomatic skills and patient nature. Hyun had negotiated peace in 100 conflicts. Surely he could handle one primitive species. The Communion flagship arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system and sent a message in every language humanity used. The message was simple. "We come in peace. We wish to talk. Please receive our ambassador." Humanity's response came within hours. They invited the ambassador to Unity Prime, their largest orbital station above Earth. The speed of their response impressed Hyun. Most species took weeks to debate how to respond to first contact. Humans seemed eager to meet their galactic neighbors. Unity Prime was smaller than Hyun expected but more sophisticated. The station rotated to create artificial gravity, a clever solution to a problem most species solved with technology. The docking procedures were professional and efficient. Whatever else humans were, they were not disorganized. Captain Doyen met Hyun at the airlock. He was a tall human with dark eyes and an easy smile that did not reach those eyes. Humans smiled when they were happy. Hyun had learned from the databases. But they also smiled when they were nervous or trying to hide their feelings. This smile was the second kind. "Welcome to Unity Prime, Ambassador," Doyen said, extending his hand in the human greeting gesture. "We've been expecting someone would come eventually." Hyun clasped the hand briefly, finding the custom strange but not unpleasant. "You do not seem surprised by our existence." "We've known we're not alone for a while now," Doyen said as he led Hyun through the station's corridors. "We detected your observation drones about 20 years ago. We left them alone because we figured you were just watching. If you wanted to make contact, you'd make contact." Hyun felt his confidence waver. They had known they were being watched. The Communion's stealth technology was supposed to be undetectable to primitive species. The conference room held 3 other humans. Dr. Minji, a scientist with sharp features and sharper eyes. Minister Taejin, an older man who carried himself with the authority of someone used to being obeyed. And a younger woman who was introduced as Officer Yoonji, though her exact role was not specified. Yoon activated his holographic display, showing the vastness of the Galactic Communion. 43 species spanning thousands of worlds, ancient civilizations that had existed for longer than humanity had used fire. "We offer you a place among the stars," Yoon said, launching into his prepared speech. "The Communion protects all species who join us. We will share technology, knowledge, and resources. In exchange, we ask that you follow the established laws of galactic civilization. There are territories you cannot enter, technologies you cannot develop, and worlds you cannot settle without permission." He paused, expecting questions. Instead, the humans looked at each other with expressions he could not quite read. "You also cannot expand beyond certain borders," Hyun continued. "New species are given a sector of space to develop. Once you reach a certain level of advancement, these restrictions may be lifted. The Eternal Ones guide all member species toward enlightenment and peace." Minister Taejin leaned back in his chair. "So we give up our freedom to expand and develop in exchange for protection and guidance. That's the offer?" "It is for your own good," Hyun said. "The galaxy is dangerous. There are predator species, pirates, natural hazards. Young civilizations need guidance," Dr. Minji spoke next. "How many species have refused this offer?" "In the last 10,000 years? None. All recognize the wisdom of joining the Communion." "Then we'll be the first," Captain Doyen said simply. Hyun blinked, his translator device surely malfunctioning. "I do not understand." "You refuse?" "We appreciate the offer," Minister Taejin said. "We really do. It's generous in its way, but humanity doesn't do well with being told what we can't do. It's not in our nature to accept limits someone else sets for us." Hyun felt panic rising. This was not in any of the scenarios they had prepared for. "You do not understand the dangers. There are species out there that could destroy your entire civilization before you knew they were coming. Then we'll learn to see them coming," Dr. Minji said. "Look, Ambassador, we understand you mean well, but humanity's entire history is about breaking limits. We were supposed to stay in Africa, we spread across the world. We were supposed to stay on the ground, we learned to fly. We were supposed to accept our planet's resources, we reached for the moon. Asking us to accept artificial boundaries is asking us to stop being human." Officer Yoonji spoke for the first time. "We've reviewed your Communion's history. You've had the same territory for 10,000 years. Your technology has barely advanced in 5,000 years. You're stable, peaceful, and stagnant. That's not a future we want." Hyun tried a different approach. "The Eternal Ones have wisdom beyond measure. They guide us toward perfect civilization." "Perfect for who?" Captain Doyen asked. "Look, we don't doubt these Eternal Ones are powerful, but we make our own choices. We succeed or fail on our own terms." The meeting went on for 3 more hours. Hyun used every diplomatic technique he knew. He offered technology, threatened consequences, appealed to logic and emotion. Nothing worked. The humans were polite but immovable. Finally, Minister Taejin ended the discussion. "Ambassador Hyun, please tell your Communion this. Humanity wishes to be friends with the galaxy. We will respect other species' territories and sovereignty, but we will not limit our own development or expansion. We will not give up our freedom. If the communion can accept that, we will have peaceful relations. If not, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. As Hyun returned to his ship, he reviewed recordings of the meeting. He noticed something in the humans' body language. They had been nervous, yes. They understood they were refusing an offer from a civilization that could crush them effortlessly. But there had been no fear in their eyes, only determination. He opened a quantum channel to the Communion Council. I have met with the humans. They have refused our protection and rejected our authority. Belthar's voice came back immediately. Then they are a threat. We must contain them. It's worse than that, Hyun said quietly. They knew we were watching them for decades and did nothing. They let us think we were hidden while they studied us in return. They were not surprised by our existence or our technology. They had already considered all of this and made their decision long before I arrived. What decision? Mitris asked. That they will expand into the galaxy no matter what we say. That they will develop whatever technology they want. That they will not accept any authority but their own. And most troubling of all, they genuinely believe they can survive whatever consequences come from that choice. Silence filled the channel for a long moment. Then the Eternal Ones were right, Velthar said finally. They truly do not understand the concept of impossible. No, Hyun said, looking at Earth through his view screen. They understand it perfectly. They just don't care. Within a week, the Galactic Communion made its decision. If humanity would not accept guidance peacefully, they would be contained by force. Not destroyed, but limited, kept in their corner of space until they learned wisdom. Grand Commander Velthar began assembling the largest fleet the Communion had gathered in 1,000 years. 12 species contributed ships. The armada would be overwhelming, designed to crush any resistance before it could truly begin. On Unity Prime, Captain Doyen received reports of the gathering fleet. He called an emergency meeting of Earth's military command. They're coming, he said, and they're not coming to talk anymore. The response from Earth was swift and unanimous. If the galaxy wanted to force humanity into a cage, they would find that humans had never done well in captivity. The call went out across all human colonies and ships. Prepare for war.